The most dangerous man in Marine Corps history is known by every Marine who ever served, and almost nobody else. He fought 4 wars, won 5 Navy Crosses, and the Chinese army begged their soldiers to avoid him by name. His name was Chesty Puller, and what he did will make you wonder why the whole world doesn't know his name. When hell surrounded him, November 1950. Chosin Reservoir, North Korea. The temperature has dropped to minus 30 degrees. Weapons are jamming. Blood freezes before medics can use it. And somewhere beyond every ridge, every frozen hill, every road disappearing into the Black Korean night, 120,000 Chinese soldiers are moving into position. They have one objective: wipe out the 1st Marine Regiment before dawn. Lieutenant Colonel Louis Puller stands at his command post, maps spread before him, and receives the intelligence report that has already made 3 of his fellow commanders request immediate extraction. Chinese forces have completely encircled his position. Every road out is compromised. Supply lines are gone. There is no cavalry coming. His officers wait for the order to retreat. Puller looks up from the map. "We're surrounded. Good. We can attack in any direction." But to understand how one man could look at certain annihilation and see a tactical advantage, we need to go back 50 years. Back to a small Virginia town. Back to a boy who decided before he was old enough to shave that ordinary was a disease he refused to catch. The moment that made him a living legend was still hours away. And nobody, not even Chesty Puller himself, could have predicted what was about to happen. The boy from Saluda, Virginia, 1998. Louis Burwell. Puller entered the world in a town that still carried the scars of the Civil War like a second skin. His father died when Louis was 10 years old, leaving behind a grief that could have consumed him entirely. Instead, it forged something inside the boy that no school, no church, and no amount of comfort could have created. An absolute refusal to be defeated by anything. By 16, he was consuming every military history book he could find. By 18, there was only one place he wanted to be: Virginia Military Institute. He enrolled in 1917 with the United States freshly entered into World War I, and the smell of history being made hanging in the air like gunpowder. He wanted combat. He wanted to test the thing growing inside him against something real and merciless. The war ended before he could get there. Most young men exhaled with relief. Puller was furious. He dropped out of VMY and enlisted in the Marine Corps as a private. Not an officer candidate, a private. Because rank meant waiting, and waiting meant missing the one thing he had been building toward his entire life. He wanted to learn war from the ground up, from the dirt, from the men bleeding beside him, from the chaos that reveals exactly what a person is made of. What he found in the dirt would shock the entire United States military. But first, he had to survive a jungle that had already swallowed better men whole. 5 years of blood. Haiti, 1919. The Kako rebels had terrorized the Haitian countryside for years, and the Marines had been deployed to restore order in terrain that seemed designed specifically to kill them. No reliable maps, no clear front lines, just suffocating heat, dense jungle, and an enemy that materialized from the darkness and vanished just as quickly. This is where Puller discovered something about himself that would define the next 4 decades of his life. He was not like other officers. While his peers managed operations from command posts, Puller was at the front of every patrol, first through every door, first around every corner. His men didn't follow him because they were ordered to. They followed him because he made them feel that wherever he was standing was the safest place on the battlefield. He earned his first Navy Cross in those Haitian jungles, then his second, 2 Navy Crosses before most Marines had seen a single hostile face. But Haiti was only the rehearsal, because Nicaragua was next. And Nicaragua was where the legend stopped being a rumor and started becoming a fact that enemy commanders whispered to each other like a warning. 5 years. Ambush after ambush, night raid after night raid. Close quarter combat in conditions that broke men physically and psychologically in ways that never fully healed. Puller thrived. He earned his 3rd Navy Cross in Nicaragua and returned to the United States with a reputation that had already outgrown his rank. 3 Navy Crosses, and the deadliest war in human history hadn't even begun yet. What kind of man arrives at World War II already legendary, the kind that was just getting started? Guadalcanal, October 24th, 1942. The jungle darkness. Outside the perimeter is absolute. Puller's battalion holds a thin line along the Matanicao River on Guadalcanal, fewer than 700 Marines standing between the Japanese Imperial Army and the airfield that controls the entire Pacific campaign. Intelligence has confirmed what every man on that line can already feel in his bones. 1,500 Japanese soldiers are coming tonight. They come screaming out of the jungle in human waves, convinced that sheer numbers and ferocity will overwhelm whatever stands in their way. Puller moves through his lines in the darkness, completely exposed, directing fire by sound and instinct, calling artillery strikes so close that the concussions shake his own men off their feet. The Japanese attack again. Puller repositions. They attack again. He moves to the weakest point in the line and holds it personally. By dawn, the jungle in front of their position is carpeted with 1,400 enemy dead. Not one Japanese soldier had broken through. Puller earned his 4th Navy Cross that night, a decoration that most Marines retire never having earned once. And somewhere in Tokyo, Japanese commanders were adding his name to a list of American officers their soldiers needed to avoid at all costs. 4 Navy Crosses, 4 wars. And the moment that would make him immortal was still 8 years away. 1 Marine, 120,000 soldiers. Chosin Reservoir, November 27th, 1950. The Chinese have sprung the trap perfectly. 30 divisions have materialized from the frozen mountains surrounding the reservoir, cutting off and encircling every American unit in the area in a single, devastating night. Temperatures are plummeting to levels that make the cold itself a weapon. Men are dying from exposure before the enemy even reaches them. Every military principle, every tactical manual, every calculation of odds says the same thing with brutal clarity. There is no path out of this. Puller gathers his officers. He looks at the maps. He looks at the faces of men who have already accepted that they are going to die in this frozen wasteland on the other side of the world. Then he gives the order that no one in that room will ever forget for as long as they live. They will fight their way out, every mile, every ridge, every ambush, through the heart of the Chinese army and out the other side. Not a retreat, an attack in a different direction. What followed over the next 17 days became the stuff of military legend that is still studied in war colleges across the world today. Puller's Marines fought through blizzards so severe visibility dropped to zero, through ambushes set by fresh Chinese units who had been specifically briefed to stop this one regiment from escaping, through frostbite and wounds and exhaustion so complete that men fell asleep standing up and had to be physically shaken back into consciousness. Every single one of them came out. 14,000 Marines, battered beyond recognition, frozen to their core, carrying their dead rather than leaving them behind, emerged from the Chosin Reservoir and into history. Puller led every step of that march personally, his 5th Navy Cross, a record that has stood for over 70 years, a record that the United States Marine Corps believes will never be broken, because they genuinely do not believe another man like this will ever exist. What he left behind. Chesty Puller retired in 1955 after 37 years of service. The Marine Corps gave him a ceremony. They gave him medals. They gave him a handshake and sent him home to Virginia. He never stopped being a Marine, not for a single breath. He watched his son, Louis Puller Jr., deploy to Vietnam and come home with both legs gone and most of his hands destroyed by a booby-trapped artillery shell. The old warrior carried that grief for the rest of his life in a way that 5 Navy crosses and 100 battles never could have prepared him for. He died on October 11th, 1971, quietly, in Hampton, Virginia, not far from the town where that hard-eyed boy had first decided that ordinary was a disease he refused to catch. The Marine Corps did not bury his story. They built their entire culture around it. Every drill instructor who has ever pushed a recruit past the point of breaking has invoked his name. Every Marine who has ever looked at an impossible situation and chosen to attack instead of retreat has carried something of him forward without even knowing it. He never lost a battle he personally commanded, not one. We're surrounded. That simplifies our problem. He wasn't being defiant, he was being honest.